actually was in there and like they didn't see me and they only saw my brother somehow and took him and I was still there. Like, to think about how that might have happened is, I don't know, that's crazy. I don't know how they did abortions back then, but that's pretty amazing to think about, that God blocked, maybe he blocked the doctor's hand, or maybe he moved me aside. I imagine like God's hand, they always show his hand, maybe his hand was pushed me over just a little, kind of keep me out of harm's way. That's kind of the metaphor for my life. Maybe God's hand was always kind of right there, kind of pushing me out of the danger. I feel like as a small child, my mother treated me pretty well. I felt like she was affectionate towards me. She hugged me, and the way that she talked about me to other people, like I said, she said I was a miracle baby, and she really was kind of bragging about that to them. But then as I got older, I think things started to come more to the surface, like my anxiety and my insecurities and those kind of things. I had a lot of emotional problems, of feeling not worthy, and she would yell at me a lot, and my stepdad would yell at me a lot, and they would call me names and just treat me really bad. And so I felt like I was the only one that was sort of treated that way. Everybody else was wanted and I wasn't. And it seemed like it started to become more obvious because I don't think she wanted to deal with the issues that I had. And it made her upset that I was there and that I was causing her problems. And then as I got older, I started to get a little bit rebellious because I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want to feel those feelings that I was feeling around them because they were causing me so much stress, and it was very chaotic and abusive. And so then I left home at 15, and they kicked me out. They told me to leave. And that's when I met my ex-husband, and I went to live with his family. And then that was another chaotic situation. He didn't have the very best childhood either. And that's kind of how we connected. But I didn't realize that it was going to be as bad as it ended up being. So then I got pregnant at 16 and had my first daughter. And that was a weird experience for me, being such a young child myself. It was just definitely a different experience because it's not that I didn't want her. It's just that there were so many things around me happening that it was kind of scary. And I felt like I didn't really know what I was going to do next. But it's just the cutest little thing. It's just so perfect. And I don't know. I just knew that no matter what, I was always going to do the best I could to take care of her. And, no matter what happened, I was going to keep her. And man, that was pretty awesome. It's something so neat and beautiful can come out of such a chaotic experience. So it was a very chaotic experience, and I was very young, but looking at her really changed everything because she was perfect and innocent, and she didn't know all the stuff that was going on around us, and she just saw me as her mother, and she just expected me when she cried to give her bottle and to take care of her. And I don't know, I felt like I had something that loved me. She loved me unconditionally, and I was always gonna have her, and it was kind of, I had my own thing, to take care of it. And it gave me purpose in life. This is my thing to do, and I liked it. And I was good at it. And I felt fulfilled from doing that. And I never really thought about getting rid of her or having an abortion or giving her to somebody else. I just knew that I needed to take care of her and keep her, even though that was really difficult. But since we were teenagers, we didn't go to school anymore, and we couldn't really get a job. And so we lived with his mother. We couldn't take care of her by ourselves. So he would resort to different things to take care of us. So he ended up committing crimes, and he ended up robbing things and to pay for us to get her formula to eat. And at one point we lived in a minivan, and so the only money that we would get, was from him stealing. And so eventually he did get caught, and I think she was only a few months old, and I was probably 17. And the cops came and they took him away for 8 months. And then I went to Las Vegas to live with his mom and dad. After that, he was never the same. So after having to deal with my ex-husband and all the abuse from him, physical abuse and mental abuse, and we had a 2 or 3-year-old daughter, and we had to live with his mother, who was supporting us. And I got pregnant again, and his mom said, well, you're going to have to get rid of it, and I'm going to pay for it. So I went and had the abortion. And I didn't want to, but I don't remember ever telling her that I didn't want to. I don't remember any of that. I probably should have. I don't know if she would have listened anyway, but part of me thinks maybe I should have told her I didn't really want to, but maybe I did want to. I don't know. It was really confusing for me, and I wish I wouldn't have. I would have wanted somebody to be more compassionate with me, maybe, and maybe really explain to me what I was really doing, and that it was actually my body, and there was actually a human being and a life in my body, instead of something that happened to me that I have to get rid of to survive. Because that's just momentary. Because in the long run, maybe there could have been other options. I could have had another daughter. I could have had another son. Maybe things could have worked out differently. And maybe that wasn't the only option. And so maybe if somebody would have came to me and said, hey, to really realize what you're doing. I mean, even though that would have been really harsh, if somebody might have told me that in that little office, instead of everybody just sitting there, all filling out their paperwork and just going through the motions, and we're just a number on their paper, that actually we were human beings. And if somebody actually stopped each one of us, if came to your face and they said, don't you realize that you have a child in your body, aside from everything else going on in your life, maybe I would have thought about something else. Maybe I could have said, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go through with this. And maybe I could have found another way to take care of the child or anything, that wasn't the only option. I wasn't stuck with that just because somebody else was telling me that I was, because ultimately it was up to me. It was my choice. I had to live with it. I had to deal with it. And it was going to be my child, not anybody else's. So I would just hope that somebody, maybe talk to somebody else that you can trust, or find somebody, or don't just do something because somebody else is telling you to do it. maybe give a little bit more pushback, say why, or, find out actually what you're doing. Don't just turn all of your feelings off. Because that's what I did. I turned all of my feelings off and all of my senses and all my everything, because I was like, well, I have to go do this like a robot, when really I thought that it was just going to be over and that I could just do it and then it wasn't a big deal. And the next day I'd be fine. But really, I wasn't. I still hear the sounds. I still remember the place, all that stuff, being now 44 years old. And I still feel bad about that. My children could have had another sibling, and because I made a decision based off of what somebody else wanted me to do, now they don't have that. And now I have to deal with the shame and the regret of having to tell somebody else that I had an abortion. Being an abortion survivor, it's shameful for me to have to say that, because I should have known better. I should have known that that wasn't the right thing to do, and that I was killing another human life. And I don't want anybody else to have to go through that, because it's not fun. It's a really hard experience. But God is so awesome that He has this amazing ability to change your life and make you a totally different person. And it requires a little bit of work, but He doesn't just come in like, magic or anything. But from where I am today, I met God, I met my new husband, and we had 2 more children. So we have 4 children. And, if I hadn't survived, I wouldn't have them. They wouldn't be here. They wouldn't have a future. They wouldn't be able to go do the things that they do now and have fun, with their sneakers and playing basketball and meeting their future husband and thinking about, those kind of things, and making beautiful art, and playing piano. And I wouldn't be able to see them doing all of those things, and I wouldn't be able to enjoy all of those things, and watching them with their animals, and all of our chickens, and our donkey Jenny, who is my spirit animal sometimes. Sometimes she loves me and sometimes she doesn't, but she stands there and she lets me love on her, and I feel a connection with her and a peace with her, and I kind of feel like she helps me, and I'm like, hey, it's all good, like, I'm going to be okay. But that's because I survived, and even though they tried to take me and they took my brother, I decided that they weren't gonna steal my joy and my love and my happiness and my compassion for other people. And I wouldn't have met my husband. Just everything changed, and I'm so grateful for all of that, and the beauty that life has to give you. No matter what you go through, you can still come out the other side and be happy. And I love being a mother. That was, even though I started out young, and people may say, well, oh my gosh, I can't believe how young you were, and all these things, and do you wish it ever happened? And I don't wish it never happened, because if it wasn't for my children, I wouldn't have so many of these qualities and gifts that I see when I look at them, and when I talk to them, I see in myself. And I couldn't do it without them. Each one of them have such a special spirit, and they always encourage me no matter what, even when I'm not always the best mother. All of us have our days, but they are always on my side, and they're always in support of me. And it's a beautiful thing. And even though I don't have my brother and stuff, it's kind of like being a mother kind of helps fill some of that void, because the unconditional love of your child is, it's the most beautiful thing ever. I mean, I just love each one of my children so much, and I love being a mother, and I'm so grateful that I have them and they're here, and I'm so proud of all of them. And that is another reason why God saved me, because I wouldn't have been able to come out here and be a mother. So, even though I feel guilty that my brother didn't make it, he could have been a father, or maybe, if we both made it, like, he could have been a father and I could have been a mother, and our kids could have been, and then his kids could have had twins, because they say the twins run, like my sister had twins. So maybe one of my kids will have twins. So maybe my brother would have had twins, but that's okay, because he's in heaven and he's watching and he's here with me now, and I can feel that, and I feel like he's proud of me, and that's why I'm telling my story, because he deserves for me to talk about him and to keep his life alive. He may not be here with me, but he was supposed to be. So he's still with me in my spirit and in my soul, and he'll never leave. And so I'm grateful for that. I have thought a lot about why I survived. I mean, obviously I don't know the exact reason, but I do know that it's for something huge. I don't know. I don't know what it's for. I know that part of it is to tell this story. I mean, I used to think that I was the only one. And I used to tell people my story, and they would say, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I've never heard of anything like that before. You need to go on Jerry Springer." Or like, "You need to do a Lifetime movie," and all these things. And I used to think, "Oh, that's weird. I'm not going to do that. Like this, what's the big deal?" And for me, it just became more, like I said, like to say my name, it just became more like I'm telling this story. It never really was, I guess I never really went to that place where it really sunk in for me. But I know that God has, sometimes I imagine, like, during the abortion, what could have happened, which obviously I don't really like to think about, because who knows how, I know back then they probably did abortions really, really bad. But this is really exciting, coming here to talk about my story and share my story with others, and just knowing that it's going to make a difference somewhere. And this is just the stepping stone to what's going to happen in the future. That I know that I'm going to be probably doing this a lot more. And it's a little bit scary, but it's also kind of exciting, and it makes me feel kind of proud of myself. And my family's really proud of me too, and they're really encouraging. And it really helps me to feel good about myself. And, all that stuff in the past just seems like a whole nother life. And then I'm able to sit here and talk about it now. That's amazing. So it's really exciting to be able to talk about all of this, because there was a time when I thought I would not be able to ever talk again. I didn't want to ever talk again. I was shut down for so many years, and I was silenced, and everybody told me not to talk. And then I figured out my voice, and then it was over from there. So I'm not going to let that hold me back. I'm going to keep sharing my stories. I got a lot of stories to share. My name is Jennifer Callender, and they took my brother. They tried to take me, and I'm going to keep sharing my story, and I'm going to keep telling people about what happened to me and my brother. And I know that's why God saved me, and that's my purpose, is to continue telling my story. I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to keep talking, and hopefully it will help other people.